we're going to switch gears and I'm going to show you Forms Tutor, which is also a great tool. Um, so you saw how we got there. I'm going to go ahead and share this tab now. So you saw how we got there. We started off in the car website. So I'm going to show you where we started. From here, we're in the Transaction Center, and we clicked on Forms Advisor and Forms Tutor. Forms Advisor is not working today or at this moment, so we went ahead and clicked on Access Forms Tutor. Now that brought us to this page right here, and this is great. So all you do, if you notice here, we're asking this page to display 10 forms. So there's 10 forms. We can actually ask this page to display all the forms or 100 forms. That may not be all the forms. Let's see, if we go down to the bottom, oh, there's 81 forms. So all 81 forms that we have access to in Zip Forms has a tutor. And if we click on, let's look at the Avid form. That's a fun one. And this is actually one that is oftentimes misunderstood and filled out incorrectly. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that form. Now, if you notice, the system, let me go ahead and share where I'm at. The system brings up the form, and you'll see that there's previous page and next page. So you can navigate through the form if it is multiple pages long. Now we're going to just scroll down, and you're going to see these little blue buttons. If we click on the button, it's going to bring up a tutorial about the area that you're looking at. So if we look at the area, it's the title. It's Agent Visual Inspection Disclosure. And then it also indicates which California Civil Code that this disclosure is helping to keep us compliant with, okay? For use by an agent when a transfer disclosure statement is required, or when a seller is exempt from completing a TDS. And then it says the CAR form acronym AVID, and the last revision date, 6 of 19. Now, you notice here it says for use by an agent when a transfer disclosure statement, which is also called a TDS, is required, or when the seller is exempt. So what is that telling us? It's required all the time because it says when it's not required and when it is required. Now, when is a TDS required? A TDS is required, and you can use this as it's kind of a broad stroke explanation, and definitely per transaction, you're going to want to investigate further whether or not you need to have a TDS. But as a broad stroke explanation, a TDS is required when the seller has information about the property. If the seller has never seen, lived in, or has knowledge about the property that is being sold, then in most cases, a TDS won't be required. But in most cases, the seller lives in the house, or he has knowledge about the house, he bought the house, or she, and the TDS is required. So in the case of this form, it is required all the time. So if we click on the blue button, you see a couple of things here. We see like a play button here, and we see this button here, which is
for the last 20 years.
That is
one of the
Okay, if we click on that, it's going to start playing. If we click on that, it's going to start playing. But what I love about this is you can consume this information in one of two ways. You can listen to it, and you can read it. So depending on what your preferred method of learning is, it's going to try and give you options so that you can consume this information in the best possible way. So we're going to go ahead and just read a little bit of this. For the last 20 years, one of the real estate agent's most significant responsibilities has been the statutory duty to conduct a reasonably competent and diligent visual inspection of the on-site accessible areas of residential property containing 1 to 4 units. And then it goes on to complete the explanation about the form. So it's going to give you, a good explanation about when and why this form is required. Now you see the next little blue button. We're going to go ahead and click on that, and it's going to talk about page 1 of this form. And we'll go ahead and click the play button so you can hear how it.
Page 1 specifies the agent's legal obligation as well as that of the buyer of the property. Page 1 also clarifies, for a buyer, the limits of the agent's legal duty.
So you can see that it's going to give you a really nice, clear explanation of each and every part of this form. So if we continue to scroll down, and here's how I would suggest using Forms Tutor. Use it when you are getting ready to have your client sign the form. Reading the forms is always a must. Before you actually ask anyone to sign a form, you should have read that form yourself. Now, this is a great tool in that process when you're reading them prior to giving them the form, in preparation to having them sign it. This is a great way to read through the forms yourself, because if you have any questions, you can click on these little blue buttons and get a further explanation about the form, the content, and the requirements, a lot of extra good information. So as you're going through this form, I would just click on the blue buttons and then read. This inspection disclosure concerns the residential property situated in the city of, county of, state of California, described as, this property is a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. This avid form is for unit number. Additional avid forms required for other units. So it just gives you the opportunity to really go through the form and understand exactly what you're asking someone to sign. That's one of our major responsibilities, is to give them good information about what they are agreeing to when they sign any of the documents, because a lot of people, they really do count on their real estate agent to explain it. Now, that should never, ever, ever take the place of you telling them and their responsibility to actually read the document themselves. So you should make it clear to your client that you are advising them that they should read all the documents themselves before signing anything. And that can be done simply by using the zip forms tool to set your forms up for digital signature and sending them over to the person who needs to sign them. What that does is it gives them the opportunity to open the form, read it thoroughly, and then click through and sign after they've read thoroughly. Zip Forms has 3 digital signing tools that is integrated with the software. One of those is your free digital ink. It also integrates well with DocuSign and with one other one. I can't think of the name right now, but you'll see it when you open when you get ready to set up your form for signature. Okay, so you're going to read through all of this, and you see there's no more blue buttons to read on this one, which means it's probably pretty self-explanatory. So I'm going to click the next button, and then you'll see here no more blue buttons. Oh, except for at the top. So let's go ahead and look at this one. So this talks about pages 2 and 3. It says page 2 and 3 then list rooms typically found in residential properties. For every room that is found in the particular property, as well as the property's outside and yard, the agent should conduct a visual inspection and write down any material items that may negatively affect a buyer's decision to buy, or the price the buyer is willing to pay. We kind of talked about that yesterday in our real estate class. Like, what should we write in our inspection form when we're doing our diligent and competent visual inspection? And the way I like to say it is anything that would change a buyer's opinion of value. I would say whether that's opinion of value up or opinion of value down. But this form is actually opinion of value down. If it would decrease their opinion of value in the negative direction, you should definitely write that down. Okay, so we're going to click over to page 3. It's also going to have one blue button. Oh no, there's one at the signature page too. So we're just going to click on here. The Avid form is not a marketing piece. The agent should not write down positive feedback. I just said that you should. Okay, I stand corrected. So if it is a positive attribute of the property, or it's going to change the opinion of the buyer's the opinion of value for the buyer in the upward direction, then do not include it on the Avid form. Okay, well, I'm glad we read this. So just anything that would affect their opinion of value in the negative. Okay, its purpose is to provide a place to disclose defects about the property of which the buyer may not be aware. Agents are cautioned to be factual in their descriptions and not to analyze or attempt to determine a cause for an observed condition. Yeah, we kind of talked about that yesterday too. We don't ever want to assume how it happened. If we see a stain on the ceiling, we don't want to say, oh, there must be a roof leak, because we don't know that for a fact. So we just state the facts, what we see. Okay, so that is, let's go down here. I want to see what this one says. Now this one's by the signature blocks. It says a separate form should be used by each broker to document the visual inspection. Do not write on a form prepared by another agent from another office. When the agent documents the inspection results on the Avid form instead of the agent's portion of the transfer disclosure statement form, the agent can write "See attached Avid form" in the agent's portion of the real estate transfer disclosure statement. And if you look at the TDS, or the transfer disclosure statement, you'll understand what this is referring to. So that is Forms Tutor. I'm going to go ahead and click out of this form and go back to I have to reshare because you can't see this. I'm going to reshare Forms Tutor. There we go. All right. So here let's pop into a different form. Let's pop into one that is more commonly used, or maybe not so commonly used. Let's see. Let's look for a good one. Contingency, court confirmation, delivery of increased deposits. I kind of want to use one that is common. Let's do the RLA, the residential listing agreement. Let's do that one. Okay, so I'll share this one instead. So you're going to see pretty much the same. It's going to have each page in this little area here with the blue buttons and the next button right here. So let's just let's skip the title one and go right to the first one here: exclusive right to sell. Now, paragraph 1, exclusive right to sell. This paragraph provides the broker with exclusive right to sell the subject property for seller. This is the information for the seller. List the names of all sellers. In most situations, the sellers should be the owners of the subject property, the person who intend to sell the property, and the persons with the authority to both list and sell the property. See also ownership, title, and authority in paragraph 24. If one or more of the sellers is an entity such as a corporation or LLC, or a trustee of a trust, then identify the entity seller, not the signing party, for the entity. Using a shortened version of the name of a trust or trustee is acceptable, provided the full name of the seller and legally authorized signer for the seller is included in the entity seller paragraph in the signature section. And here is something that is really great about Forms Tutor. It gives you a little practice tip. I recommend always reading the practice tips. In this one, it says, before taking a listing, it is a good idea to obtain a property profile or check the public records for the subject property. Use this information to verify that the seller's entering into the listing agreement matches exactly with the ownership of record. If the purported seller is not the owner of record or not the only owner of record, the listing agent's efforts in listing and marketing a property might turn out to be a waste of time. So this is telling you, you know what? Check it out beforehand. If the property profile indicates that somebody else is on title, then by filling this out with the person who you who is saying that they're the owner of the property might be an, a waste of time because you're just going to have to get a listing agreement from the actual owner of the property. And I've been in situations where the person who came to me to sell the property is not the owner of the property. And when I went to the actual owner of the property, that person had no intention of selling the property. So, why people do what they do is a mystery, but always protect yourself against time wasters like that. Okay. So let's go to the next one. We're going to go to the listing price. Let's see what this one says. Write out the listing price using words and in the parenthesis after the dollar sign using numbers. Now, if you're using if you're filling out the forms in Zip Forms itself, it's not going to have you type out the listing price in words. It's going to do that automatically when you put it in numbers. If you're filling it out by hand, then you will have to fill it out by words. Okay. The list price usually is the target price at which the seller is willing to sell the property. As with the listing period, determining the correct list price requires a careful balancing of various factors, including, among other things, the condition of the property, the party's requirements, for example, how quickly the seller wants to sell the property, comparable sales, and market conditions. If the list price is too low, the seller may get frustrated, receiving a lot of offers that never amount to anything. If the list price is too high, the seller may get no sales activity at all. So this forms tutor has more information than just what you need to what information needs to go into that area when you're filling it out. It also has some great tips and tricks and whatnot. Now, in this form, you see there are a lot of blue buttons. So when you go through this one, there are a lot of opportunities to get some really great information. Now, if you've used this form over and over and over and over, and you're pretty clear on how to complete it, but you just have a question on one area, you can just simply click that blue button and get a more in-depth explanation of that area of the form. Okay. All right. Well, I think I have explained this in great detail. If you have any other questions or have, any unanswered questions about how to use it, how to access it, then simply send me an email or you can ask now. I'll go ahead and stop sharing. There we go. Okay. Do you have any questions? Okay. All right. Then I guess I explained it adequately. All right. So next Wednesday, we kind of did a flip flop. Next Wednesday, we were going to talk about Forms Advisor, but we'll go ahead and talk about Forms Tutor. No, I'm sorry. We talked about, yeah, we were supposed to talk about Forms Advisor today. We went ahead and talked about Forms Tutor. So next week will be Forms Advisor. And just to give you kind of a little description of how that works, you actually fill out a little form that says, the type of seller, let's say it's a listing agreement, the type of seller, is it a corporation, trust, or is it an individual person? And then you'll describe the property. Is it a house, a condo, what type of property? And then you're going to put some of the terms of the transaction in there. And what that's going to do is it's going to take all the information that you input, and it's going to output a list of forms that you need to be sure to complete as part of the transaction in order to have a complete file at the end. So it's a really great tool. We actually do have a form like a what is it, a checklist of all the forms based on the type of transaction. And then, of course, if you use a transaction coordinator, they are well versed in knowing which forms that you use. But if you're trying to maybe learn how to do the forms yourself, you're trying to TC your own transaction, and you're trying to learn it, this is a great tool because it really does tell you every single form that you need to have in your file to have a complete file. What does this do? It keeps you from the courthouse. It keeps you from getting in front of a judge. It keeps your client out of litigation. It makes sure that you are protecting yourself and your company and your business in the best way possible, because we never, never, never want to, leave ourselves open for any kind of risk. So this is a great tool for keeping us safe in our transaction, and make sure that everything that needed to be disclosed was disclosed, and that we have proof of that disclosure. A lot of times we may be doing the right thing, but if we can't prove that we did, then it's useless. So this is a great tool, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. And that'll be next week, Wednesday at 10. So with that, thank you all, and we will go ahead and close it up. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.